Riparian woodlands can contribute to natural flood management and improve water quality. Woodlands along watercourses can reduce water runoff, protect soils from erosion, slow the flow rate of floodwater, and stabilise banks. Enhanced grants funding is available for woodland creation in priority catchment areas.
We've come to this site just north of Largs in the Brisbane Glen, where we've planted about 120 hectares of native woodland and mixed woodland. It's been planted by 4 separate landowners along this valley who've taken advantage of an enhanced grant available under the Woodlands for Water scheme. This is available because planting these areas has been shown to provide lots of public benefits in terms of both water quality enhancement on the Nodsdale Burn here, but also in terms of natural flood management. They've had issues with flooding downstream in Largs, and actually by planting a lot of the catchment area in this valley, we're hoping to provide natural flood management benefits and reduce flooding further downstream in Largs. It's quite a narrow planting scheme with which required a lot of geofencing. And normally the Forestry Commission would cap at 150% of the planting grant. Here though, because of the public benefits in terms of natural flood management and water quality, they paid the full grant for the geofencing, despite it being a long, narrow strip. This is Oz Wardrop, who's the farmer of the Brisbane Glen estate. Now, Oz, I was wondering if you'd just tell us a little bit about your reasons for wanting to plant this land, and in particular the problems you were having grazing the land before it was planted.
Yes, this land down here is a narrow strip going down to the burn, and we found that in summertime we couldn't graze cattle down here because of the fly problems, and then we found in wintertime it was too long for the sheep to go into and also too wet for cattle to go into, so really it was becoming more and more useless. It's next to a woodland beyond it over the burn, and we thought that it would blend in nicely to that and be an asset to the land rather than an eyesore.
Well, you are going to be planting another 30 hectares just further up the hill there.
Yeah.
Do you see there being a reduction in stock numbers after that, or are you planning to maintain the same numbers?
I think I'll try and keep the numbers as they are at present. The benefit is that it was a bit of land, very, very steep, not being used. The grant situation with the forestry gave us some economic return from having trees here, which would also benefit our problem with not grazing it and trying to keep it under control. Really, it was kind of win-win situation. I can't see the future in sheep being that rosy for the next few years, so the trees giving me a certain income that can keep the whole estate going.
Planting woodlands in the wider catchment area beyond riparian zones creates a sponge effect. The trees' canopies intercept rainfall, while their root systems soak up water and help water to filter deeper into the soil. Conifers are particularly thirsty and can provide additional benefits of shelter, timber income and carbon capture.
One of the problems with riparian planting is it can be quite expensive because you need long stretches of fences along the river courses. So if possible, it's really beneficial to extend the planting away from the riverbank and further up the hill. At this farm in East Ayrshire, this is what we managed to do. We've planted a lot of native woodland planting along the burn sides, but there have been areas where it's been possible to extend the planting right up the bank and further up the hill. Here we've planted productive conifers, the Sitka spruce, highly productive on this sort of site. It's also got very water demanding, and so will dry out the soil. In doing that, it will create a sponge effect where when the rainfall events, particularly in the summer, it's going to create a water deficit, and the water is going to be absorbed into the soil and then used by the trees and reduce the flows in the river. And so it's very effective in terms of natural flood management in reducing peak flows if you can plant larger areas of woodland in the catchment as catchment area planting and using productive conifers for that purpose. We've left marshy areas unplanted without any ground prep, and we've kept the mounds at least 2 metres back from the burn side. The steep banks again are uncultivated, but we will be putting native broadleaves, directly planting those into the steep banks. Again, it is a woodlands for water area, so that we've got extra payment for planting native broadleaves in this woodlands for water area because of the benefits it provides. This is Jim Barr from Braidland and Blacklaw Hill Farm. Jim's actually in the middle of planting about 100 acres of woodland on the farm. So I'm just wondering, Jim, if you could explain a little bit about why you chose to plant the areas that you are planting. Why 100 acres?
Well, 100 acres was it was a full advantage of the grant scheme.
Right.
That was the main reason. Brother was wanting a big area up at Blacklaw Hill done, and we started up there first. It was poorer land up there.
Right.
SEPA, when they inspected us 2 years ago, they wanted us to start fencing all the fields wherever there was waterways and ditches. At the time, they were just wanting us to be 200 metres away from the burn, and it seemed a waste of money. And once we started looking into this scheme, we just decided we would just plant all the valleys, and it just keeps the cattle away from the water for erosion or anything like that. The main thing I think it will be is it'll be a great shelter belt. And really it was to do with wildlife as well. One of the other reasons as well is everything is getting wetter, climate change.